So hello everyone, Monon here, welcome to my review of Kakegurui episode 4. And I found it pretty good. And to be honest, it's mainly through my mindset, right? I mentioned it last week, I mentioned it this week now, through my live reactions. Like, I have changed my mindset, and now I'm saying that this is not a anime, it's not a gambling anime, it's a ecchi anime, I guess, right? I mean, that mindset that I am watching an ecchi borderline hentai anime, then this anime is pretty good. If I have the mindset of saying, okay, I'm gonna go in here, I want to learn how to gamble, I want to learn some cheating, I want to learn this and this, then the anime can be the face for me. So for me, it's a lot of the mindset. So having that mindset this week, the first 3 weeks I didn't have that. Then I say wanted it to be the next like Kadi or something, but I changed the mindset, right? So now it's much better. And I feel like, yeah, it's pretty fun, yeah. But still though, this episode actually I think was better, mainly because it was less gambling, to be honest. Because this episode had very little gambling, and it also makes it a very little gambling anime. Yeah, and it's more of this, oh, I'm gonna undress, oh, I'm gonna shoot myself, and there's more of this sexual thing, like forced marriage, or you're gonna marry off kind of slave, and they had more of that, less gambling, so more crazy rich people, weird fetish stuff, sexual stuff, and so on, right? And that made it better, to be honest. Not saying that I actually want that, actually, personally, to absolutely honestly, and not saying that because like, oh, I'm proud, I would much rather watch a good psychological anime, how to cheat in games, for example, how to prevent cheating. That's much more interesting to me, and I just would watch hentai or porn or whatever, right? If I want to, I would less rather have that out of the shit. But yeah, that being said though, this episode to me then made more sense because now it was more focused on that, less gambling, more focused on this weird shit, right? Yeah, not just sex, but weird stuff, right? Focused more on that, and I think it worked better as well then. So my mindset before I watched it was like, okay, it's gonna be weird stuff because this anime is more about weird stuff than gambling. And then the episode had 15 minutes of weird stuff, only 5 minutes to gambling. The other ones had like 10 minutes or each. This was more focused on, as I say again, weird stuff. I think it was better because gambling in this anime isn't that good anyway. The gambling in anime is very weak, right? So I think that was very strong. Made the episode much better. And I really mean that because when each time it gambles, I was like, oh, you have this shit, and now I'm gonna use my crazy face for that. That's like, that's the half the anime, right? The dude is like, oh, bitch. That is half the anime, right? So it doesn't really feel like it matters what to actually play with. Like, oh, we can play this Indian game, which is completely wrong, but yeah, we can play that game, and it's like, my face? Suddenly, when it, Butta Jane! Yeah, because I had a pig face. Because I had the pig hand, the Butta, right? So I had the Butta! Time for Butta face. Right? That's half the anime. So I think the episode actually was much better. Probably the best episode, in my opinion. Maybe I like the characters a little more. The more you watch something, I think you like the characters more. But also, generally, I think this was better. Again, then, because it had less gambling. It's focused more on the crazy, I'm gonna kill myself, you and I let me, and so on. So I think it actually works well better. Also kind of funny to see, of course, and Mary, and Yamaka, they're kind of allying up, right? They have some shit going on. So to say how they're cheating, but it can be anything that we saw, because, like he said, I know she was saying this. That means that because they're playing this called, the actual game is called something like. I actually did Google it during it, and I was Googling it again. And it's like, yeah, it's called something like Fool's Head or Oklahoma Poker, and also it's called Indian Poker. Rarely, this is a name you can find for Indian Poker, but the name, of course, is very to me at least, very misused, because Indian to me means Indian, like Hindu people, like 1.2 billion people, right? That's Indian for me primarily, where I'm coming from, so my cultural name for it, to be honest. And I think generally people say Native Americans, right? So yeah, so that game, and you can find it in Wikipedia and so on, but it has like 5 different names, and I think that the Bluff Food Head and so on makes more sense because you have it on your head and so on. So the title of head makes more sense to me. And as I say again, then I thought about it earlier today, but there is a poker game called Teen Patti, and now I worked on a game we did for the Indian market and Pakistan market. That was called a Teen Patti version game, an iPhone game or iPhone Android game. That is poker, literally poker, pretty much in India. and they play it with three cards hands. No matter, but basically there is a game that's called Teen Putty, and that is, to me at least, that is Indian poker. Like that is like literally Indian poker pretty much, with all the rules and no more Texas Hold'em. And so they were saying like we're gonna play Indian poker. I was like, that's not Indian poker at all. Oh, it's bluff head poker. Okay, that's completely else. And one thing, maybe that was mistranslated, but I don't think it was, which made no sense to me, is they have 40 cards. And I guess they don't have like they don't have the closed card, right? They don't have like knight or jack or something I could see in the game. So maybe I missed it during the episode, but I don't think they mentioned what cards they removed. But it makes sense to me if they remove the queens, the kings, and the jacks, right? So that would be 12 cards, and then you have 40 cards left. So that, yeah, it makes sense in that sense. So it's just 1 to 10. But it just felt kind of weird. It would be like, it feels kind of weird. That it would be like, oh, we're gonna play like Fool's Head or Indian Poker. Probably subtitled wrong then. That's probably subtitled wrong more than the wrong. But however, but why would they have 40 card extra than 50 card deck? Because, right? Because you can say, oh, but what's better? Like if you have closed cards, yeah, but the closed cards usually do the normal thing. You say that jack is weaker than queen, and queen is weaker than king. So if you have a jack, you beat the numbers, except the ace, right? That's not complicated. So it just feels weird. It would be like, oh, we're gonna play this game that exists in real life, but we're gonna remove 3 cards. I mean, like 3 sets of cards, and it's like, why? I don't get that. Honestly, that to me is a little lower in the score. It is, even though I said you said I don't care about the gambling thing. The gambling thing, I care about it, but I mean I care about it less because clearly the anime is trying to be like a deep down game planning, game kind of game, right? But it's just unnecessary, and I hate inefficient, unnecessary stuff. I think that's just for me, my core personality. I like that it works, and I'm much like if it really works, don't fix it. It's kind of me, and. But I mean, I'm an engineer for trade pretty much generally, right? Consult, and it's like when I do stuff and invent stuff, I build stuff, I try to always have like the easiest solution is the best solution. I'm not saying that it's the best idea you have first idea, but sometimes, and also generally in planning, strategy and so on, it's like, well, you have this issue, and you can go about it these different ways. Usually the easiest way, or the most simplest way is the best way, because all the other ways have so many issues they can go wrong. So it's more, the probability is higher it faces one, right? Or something else will happen. So, the classic strategy of the simple strategy is the best strategy is usually something I endure, right? And so on, most of the time. However, I do play very, very weird in many games, or just play style, but I don't think it's really the same thing, because I mean, like, generally, when I do have my weird startup, after that, I will play something very simple. Something very straightforward. So it just feels, everything in my mind just feels unnecessary. Like why do you have to cards? I mean, why do you? I can't see them having to cheat either. Maybe it's easy to cheat, I guess, if you don't have to mention the closed cards, because then it says 1 to 10 instead. So you can have different keywords, you can have different cheating words. Maybe that's gonna be it. Maybe they cheat or he cheats something. It's gonna have something to do with numbers. And it's easier or to say a cheat if you don't have to say I have the king in my hand, even though there's values like 12 or 13 depending on how you calculate it. So it's easier to say. It's not hard to say it, but it's harder than to say I have 5. It's kind of killing, I suppose. Hopefully that's it. So otherwise I can't see the reason why you say we have this Fool's Head poker game, but with less cards. It's like, why? See what I mean? Because it will just be. I mean, obviously, whatever shit you're doing, if it's just like keyword and so on, that's a shit that you can't take and use in real life. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy that they're playing a game that actually is existing in real life, right? But I just don't see the necessary reason of making it just like a lesser version of a real life game. For what I can see, no reason so far. It might have a reason though, but I don't think the reason would be good enough, to be honest. Because I can see it's cheat in this game. The less card it is, the less it is a cheat. But I say again, really, like, doesn't really matter. So I think that this makes it unnecessarily complicated. Because right away I watched them like 40k card, so that can't be Indian poker then. Because I right away like, it's not Teen Putty, it's not it's Oklahoma, it's head poker. Okay, I get it now. It's this game, but all the rules I can find in the game is like 52 cards. So it's like, you know, see what I mean? Like, it just makes it unnecessary for the viewer, for me, the reader, viewer. Like, why have the rules for it? So then that's the question. It's all the rules. Otherwise, it seems to be the exact same game, right? So then, because otherwise, if you mention, oh, we're gonna play Oklahoma Poker, and then I can go to Google it and be like, okay, this is the rules. But now, like, we're gonna play Oklahoma Poker, -3 cards. I'm like, huh? Right? And that just gives me that feeling. So that for me lowered the episode a lot. It really did. Just because it feels unnecessary, mainly. Like, why? Why don't you just keep it straight up? 82 cards, same deck. It's like last week they played pretty much roulette, but with less strategy, right? So it's like, why? Anyway, the first time they're doing also game into the next week. So that's interesting. Also because they ended it they started the gambling very late. In my opinion, they could almost have finished the gambling there. And I think it's interesting, the first 50 minutes were more enjoyable. So yeah, so it's like, I don't dislike this anime, but it really feels like the first 50 minutes were better, and as soon as you get to the gambling part, I'm just like, the routes are kind of weird, the name's kind of weird, why are they playing this, is this shit really advanced? It's like, you know, as soon as I start gambling, I'm more like, meh, right? It's better. I was more with crazy gun girl, hope she lost her eyes on kind of gambling. And I think it's funny how she was like, oh, we're gonna sell you off some senator, you could have 3 children and be a grandmother. She's like, no, I wanna be some freaking grandmother, I hate the good life. Like, that was great. So I think more of that is something I actually wanna see. So the less gambling in the anime, the better. Kind of weirdly, right? So again, this is not a gambling anime, and it's absolutely not a logical anime. There's zero, you know, mindset in it, right? I mean, yes, I love the ending there. I said that end was really good because it's something I've done in my own life. I actually remember once I was playing a poker tournament and I bluffed. I didn't bluff, I had a good hand. I had a good hand, but the other ones folded after I went pretty good in and so on. And then I was like, oh yeah, and then I was like, oh, I accidentally showed my hand afterwards. And I was like, you don't have to show your hand, you know, if we all fold. And I was like, yeah, I don't have to. I was like, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to. It's like, and I like showed my ace on purpose, you know, it's like, oh yeah, like, that's a classic thing, right? And I got into his head, right? He was like, he saw that and I was like, yeah, good that I folded because he actually had a good hand. But he didn't show me that. No, I know that he's an honest player. And then of course, next time I can have a really shitty hand. And he'd be like, yeah, that guy, last time he was all inning, he had a good hand. I'm just gonna fold. And I'd be like, yeah, fold, please. Right? So you want sometimes you want to show your good hand, even though you don't have to, because your opponent will be like, oh shit, right, yeah. And maybe the reverse instead. Better the reverse, which is simple to do. It's simply, I mean, easier to get in a situation where you get into fold and you have a bad hand, because usually you have a bad hand actually, right? In poker, you usually have a bad hand versus a good hand. So you so you show your bad hand, so they, haha, you fold even though I had a crappy Buddha hand, and they're like, oh man, yeah, and they get into their head. But I think the other situation is actually more interesting, honestly, in my opinion. Not say they could have done that in his mindset, it wouldn't work, but I mean, just mean that because he was like, aha, I know you have a good hand, so that would have really worked showing him the good hand, right? Well, actually, in a way it would, because they'd be like, haha, I knew it. They always all in on good hands, and the next time she could be like, oh, all in again. He's like, oh, you have a good hand, and then she'd be like, no, I have a crappy hand, you loser. So that would be actually a more of like a longer trap, right? So yeah, but I mean, both of them work, but I just mean that the other situation is more rare, because usually you have a crappy hand, and you might be able to fake it. Sometimes you have a really good hand, like let's say 2 aces, like a really good hand, and then you kind of want to show it too, because you're kind of like, yeah, I had a good hand. So you want to, yeah, sometimes you want to present it as an honest player, so they are afraid of you, right? Depends, right? But yeah, so I think that was really good to me. I love that. There was a good way to both get this like butter face and also actually showing a good gambling strategy, because she's in his head, right? She knows that, oh, you folded because you think you have a good hand, like an ace. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know you have an ace, you're cheating. She's like, nope, butter! Right, and that was actually good. For me, that was absolutely the best moment, I would say, this anime. Actually. That moment was really good. Using both, this is actually a situation where the face is great, and it's also the first time I feel they actually have done anything so they don't call gambling value-wise. So she had a decision to make there, and she made it to, you know, fuck up his mind, or to get into his mind, and that was like, yes, finally something's happening that I can approve of as a gambler. So that's good. That was actually really good. So episode 4, yeah, best episode by far, I would say. The only thing I didn't like, and I say it again, is the Indian thing. The name, I remember I should really listen to the anime, maybe subtitle issue, but mainly, if that, why is that 40 conic? It irritates me. It couldn't just be the same rules, right? It just makes it more complicated. Because then you can't say, okay, they're playing this game, almost playing this game, right? Why? I don't get it. It's just unnecessary. It could be simpler. For the viewer, mainly. Because you watch it and you say, so it's not that rules, it's almost those rules. Like, you sit there and think for it. You don't want to have the user having to like Google shit and be like, okay, I guess I play like the B version or something. Like, you don't want that. You don't want that. It's just bad. It's bad for the viewer. It's the same if you do anything. This on tandem here. But I'm writing like a game rules for our current game, and yeah, I'm bad. Everyone hates me for I write something. I write it too complicated sometimes. But mainly I try to be. It's like, oh, we have this ability. Oh, you can, do X with your character, and X is something you recognize from like 10 other games. And I was gonna call it like, let's say I was talking about invisibility or something. You can cloak your character. Then I would use a name like cloak, stealth, invisibility, hide maybe. I'll use something like that, a common name for it, and oh yeah, cloaking, invisibility, or like stealth, or hiding. Yeah, you get, or like burrow, maybe like socket. So I will use something like that. Some name you can be like, oh yeah, I recognize that. Okay, but I wouldn't use a name like oh god, let's say something really weird. Okay, like crone, like temporal placement of time, or like that would mean like interior plane, I suppose. But something like, oh, you can't see this unit because it's like temporal mishap, and like in Naruto, like they're like interdimensional placement. So it's like not really the in-betweener, yeah, something like that, like I wouldn't make up some really weird name like that. Like sometimes I have really weird names because I think it's funny to reference them, and everyone comes to me. But generally, at the company, I wouldn't call that, like in between your unit, like a unit that's in between two dimensions, so that's why you can't see it or something. Like it's physical body is standing in other dimension, but its corporal body is here, or like it's astral plane, so you can move or something. Like that would just be confusing instead of just saying it has stealth, right? Then you could explain and say this unit here can burrow like Zerglings. This unit here has stealth by technology, like Dark Templar and so on. So you have like two different abilities to be invisible, or have stealth or cloak or whatever you call it. But like that's two different mechanics, two different like thematic abilities to get there. Mechanic is the same. But so you could explain, say, oh, this unit can go to like a temporal astral plane or like another dimension and move its body like this outside. Then you can see it when it's like running in the shadow plane or something. It's in the shadow realm. Yeah, you can say something like that, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, I guess. But you would still call a keyword or the ability like stealth or something. You wouldn't call it like shadow play, so you can't see. Like that just makes it weird. Like, why would you do that? And then the gamer, the player in this case, Naya, the reader of the game, they'll be like, just get it confused. You can have the lore explain that you're moving into Shadow Realm and stuff like that, but the actual gameplay should be like that. So when you're watching an anime and they're explaining stuff quickly to you, I kind of just want to say, okay, this is the rules, we play this game, this is the rules. This is the same rules as they are in the real world. The end. Instead of saying, like, we're playing this game, using a weird name for it, maybe something issue, maybe some kind of issue, maybe a bit iffy, but they are saying, you're playing this real life game, but check the rules with these changes because of no reason. Bam. It's like, just give me the real game world, yeah. Anyway, see you next week and have a great day.